It's the Mike Francesa Podcast on the BetRivers Network.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa Podcast on the BetRivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. All right, we're a day away, finally, and it's been a long wait, for the NBA Finals. We have the Stanley Cup right behind it. Told you we would have a preview for the Stanley Cup final. For the NBA Finals, which begin tomorrow night. Celtics a 220 favorite against the Mavs, and we have heard now that Porzingis will be in the starting lineup for game number 1. Now, there are two keys to this series. Number one, I think the series will be more competitive than people think. But there are two pronounced keys to this series. The first is Porzingis and his health, and whether or not he is able to perform at the level that allows him to be a major factor in the series. If he is a major factor and plays as he did at his best this year, it will be very hard for Dallas to win the series. Very, very hard for them to win the series because he will be a complete matchup nightmare, and really in every way for Dallas. He will cause multiple matchup issues for them, and will make it very tough. Number two, the other big key in the series will be the play of Kyrie Irving, who, at his best, can play on a superstar level, and at his best is every bit as good a player as Tatum is. And he doesn't always play as consistently as Tatum does, so he's not recognized the same way. Plus, obviously, his off-the-field antics are an issue. But when he is at his best, he allows Dallas to have the best 1-2 tandem on the floor in the series with Doncic, who's the best player in the series, and then Irving, who's capable of scoring anywhere from 25 to 45 points on a given night, and can really explode when he is on his game. He is not the most consistent of players, and I know a lot of folks will feel that the tandem of White and Holiday will bottle him up in this series. Also, they feel that playing against the Celtics will be tough for him to do. I'm not sure that'll be the case, but you do have to always take secondary and tertiary factors into account when you're dealing with a very complex person in Irving, who I've made it very clear through the years is not my favorite player, okay, by any stretch. But I think he is an enormous key in this series. Now, I think the Celtics would have been a pretty heavy favorite even if Porzingis wasn't going to play because of the way they have gone through the playoffs. But when you take a look at how they've gone through the playoffs, they, number one, have played weaker teams. Number two, the star player on each of those teams has missed multiple games in the given series. So they have had an absolute cakewalk so far. Far more than Dallas had by any stretch of the imagination. I am not disputing that the Celtics are a good team. I'm not disputing that their performance during the regular season was better than everybody else's. Obviously, the number of wins they had, their offensive performance, at times their defensive performance. But I think their defensive performance is overrated, less so when Porzingis is healthy. But they offer very little in the way of rim protection, and when Porzingis isn't there. And I think they're not that good a defensive team. While I think Dallas has been a much better defensive team, a much better team, and a much better defensive team since the trade. And I think they're subtly better than people think. Plus, they have, in Doncic and Irving, a unstoppable 1-2 tandem. I'm going to go on the premise that Porzingis is not going to be at optimum strength and might still have trouble with his injury throughout this series, despite the fact there's pretty good time between games. If that's not the case, and he plays to a high level, I think then that Dallas will probably fall short. If that's not the case, which I think is the more reasonable thing to feel here in the series, then I think Dallas has a legitimate shot to shock and I think it would be a shock, the NBA world here and win the series in 6. I think the games will be close. I think that Dallas will win a game in Boston. And I think it'll come down to Irving's play, but I do think they'll get good play at times from the supporting cast. Better than people might think. I really do. I think they will get good play out of Lively, who I do feel will be compromised because both Lively and Gafford have matchup problems against Porzingis. They will have to use Cleveland more in that series under those conditions. But I think that Jones, I think that Lively, who I think will hurt them inside and on both backboards, and Washington can be better factors than people think. And I think having Washington, having Jones, having Hardy have the ability to knock down a 3, especially in the corner, which Luka likes to set up, allows them to hang in. 3s are going to be an enormous factor in the series. We know that. First of all, they're a factor in all NBA series. I mean, and more they become an enormous factor. In Game 6, Dallas, in Game 5 of the series against the T-Wolves, Dallas made 15 of 34 threes. You know Boston can shoot reasonably, can shoot 43s in a game. We've seen that. We've seen it on multiple occasions. It's not surprising to see them do that. In their clinching win over Indiana, they were 14 of 44 from 3. Nobody is more reliant on the three-point shot than the Celtics are. They shot 46 shots in Game 3 in the series. They shot 44 shots in Game 4 in the Indiana series. It's not surprising to see them shoot that kind of number. So you might have games here where you're going to get 80 three-point shots in a game. That's how much the 3 has become such an incredible part of teams' offense and of team offensive efficiency. And it will be a major factor in this series. A lot is going to depend on not only the scoring of Doncic and Tatum, but also how many threes they each take in a game and how many shots they each have to take to get to their number. For Luka to get to his low 30s, for Tatum to get to his high 20s, how many shots do they take? How many threes do they take? As a matter of fact, I think there's only been 2 times in the playoffs that either Doncic or Tatum has shot as high as 50% from 3 in a playoff game. I think just twice this year. So it doesn't happen that often. In the clinching game where Dallas put forth an offensive display against Minnesota, and Doncic had a 30-point first half. He was 6 of 10 from 3. Just the second time in the playoffs he has been over 50%. He was 14 of 22 from the floor in the game. He scored 29 of his 36 points in the first half. He scored 20 of those first half 29 in the first quarter. So he had 20 in the first quarter, 29 at the half, and only finished with 36. While Irving matched them with 36, and between them, they shot 23s in the game. So you are going to see them shoot threes at a very, very high percentage. It's going to happen. As far as they're going to take a lot of threes as a high percentage of their overall shots, and how well they're going to do. Now, in the clinching game for Boston, Tatum went 5 of 10 from 3. Horford wound up taking 12 threes in that game. Now, Horford's play is going to be limited if Porzingis plays, but Porzingis can be very, very efficient from 3. He is a very good three-point shooter. He can be lethal from 3. His ability to block a shot, his ability to shoot a 3 makes him a very big factor going forward. And as I said, an enormous matchup problem. An enormous matchup problem for Dallas. So, 2 huge keys. Porzingis' health, how many minutes he can log, how efficient he is, and whether or not Irving takes his place and plays the way he played in the final with LeBron when LeBron won a championship due to Irving's incredible performance. Irving was an enormous factor in that series that time. And if he plays anywhere to that level, considering what Doncic can bring, and Doncic has to battle through his own injuries just like Porzingis, but he'll be there. And he'll put up his 32 and 9 and 10 or 10 and 9 or whatever, or 10 and 10 or whatever it might be. If Irving puts up the numbers that he's capable of putting up, that series is going to be very, very interesting. I'd also watch the play live because I think he could be a very, very big factor in causing problems inside for the Celtics. So, a couple of things about Boston. Boston has these games where, especially at home early in the series, where they just take off. They should have lost game 1 to Indiana. Indiana threw that game away with both hands in the final 25 seconds of the regular 48 minutes. They lost the game in overtime. They had a 3-point lead with seconds remaining. All they had to do was catch the ball, get fouled, go to the line, make 1 or 2, and the game was over. Instead, they turned the ball over. Brown hit a 3 in the corner. The game went to overtime, and they lost. Halliburton got hurt, and they didn't win a game. They got Miami with no Butler. They got a Cleveland team that was all banged up, all messed up, and still gave them, Still gave them a pain in the neck time. And they were banged up, really banged up. When Mitchell was healthy, they beat Boston in Boston, 118-94. Miami buried Boston in a game. The Cavaliers buried Boston in a game. The Indiana should have won Game 1 there. The Celtics have been anything but dominant on their home floor in these playoff series. And I really think Dallas has a great chance to go in there and win Game 1 or 2. I think Game 1 more than Game 2, but I think Game 1's a big opportunity for them. Steal that game and flip the series right from the start. I think we're going to be in for a highly competitive series, more so than people think. And like I said, unless Porzingis is at his best, I think that Dallas has a heck of a chance to win the series. I really do. I think they have a really, really good chance to win the series as a big underdog. The key is not going to be Doncic because Doncic is going to get his. The key is going to be Irving and whether he gets his. Now, Naira set up these 4 days at Saratoga as Belmont is being reconstructed into a all-year track so that they can do away with Aqueduct, which will become part of the airport. And the idea of having this 4-day meet at Saratoga about 6 weeks before the real meet begins, 5.5, 6 weeks before the real meet begins, was greeted with so much really intense, really, it's amazing how much people took to it. The seats went quickly. The demand for hotel rooms was unbelievable. The city jam-packed. I mean, you couldn't, restaurants, reservations were full. Hotels are full. Houses going for high prices for the weekend. Really, you can. They're charging big money for the seats for the Belmont. Everything was ready for this to be a major home run for Naira, and it looks like they're going to get terrible weather. They can't get a break. It's been nice up there the last couple of days. I've talked to people who were up there, and it looks like tomorrow they're going to get hit the first day of the 4, with Saturday being Belmont Steak Day. It looks like they're going to get hit with some terrible weather. Can't beat it. That's going to put such a damper, because I can tell you, while there's no place like Saratoga, there is no place worse to be than Saratoga on a bad weather day. It's a horrible place on a bad weather day. It just is. It's an old wooden track. If it's raining, it leaks. It's just awful. It's not good. And the weather forecast for Thursday is bad. I mean, today was 87 and sunny. Beautiful day. Picture perfect Chamber of Commerce day. And tomorrow they're expecting an inch of rain. And there's rain in the forecast and showers in the forecast for Friday and Saturday. Can't catch a break. And then next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sunny. Too bad, because it would have been really something special. I don't know how much of a damper it'll put on. I mean, the people will show up on Friday and Saturday. They won't show up in a big way tomorrow, I don't think, but I think they'll show up in a big way on Friday and Saturday. There'll be a big crowd there on Saturday unless it's teeming, and I don't think it's supposed to be. I think it's just supposed to be showery on Saturday. But it's going to kill the turf racing, and they had put together some great cards. Sunday is an all New York bred day, the 4th day of the meet. All New York bred day. The Friday card's good. The Saturday card is really amazing. I mean, just, steak race after steak race after steak race, 14 races in all. I mean, you really couldn't have a better a better day of racing. You really couldn't. And you just hope that things go well weather-wise. You just hope that even if it rains tomorrow, that maybe it rains itself out by Wednesday or Thursday, by Thursday night, and that Friday isn't bad, and that Saturday is at least decent. I mean, you have a 14-card race day on Saturday. Belmont is race 12, which will go off around 6:55 or so. You have the Grade 2 True North in the 4th race. You have the Grade 3 Polka at a mile on the turf for the 5th race. Casa Creed's going to run in that race. The old man who continues to show his best stuff every year at Saratoga. 8 years old now. Casa Creed will be back again. He's training great. I would expect he will do very well and add to his incredible Saratoga record. You know, he's just been great at Saratoga. He really has, and he's on his way. He's already made over $2.6 million, so he's just a wonderful, wonderful horse. We'll have to beat Carl Spackler, who's a very, very nice horse for Chad Brown. The 6th race is the Suburban, another wonderful race, Grade 2. The 7th race is the Ogden Phipps at a mile and an eighth. The 8th race is the Woody Stevens, which is a Grade 1 for 3-year-olds, run at 7 furlongs. The 9th race is the Jaipur. We're not going to the Jaipur, even though we've won it a couple of times, because the Jaipur at Saratoga cannot be run at 6 furlongs. It can only be run at 5.5 furlongs. So it's not long enough for Casa Creed. So we're going to skip the Jaipur, which we've won a couple of times, and we will go in the Poker instead at a mile. But the Jaipur is a terrific race. Watch for Big Invasion, who is one of my favorites. But it's a very good field of horses. The 10th race is one of the most important races on the calendar for the entire year, the Met Mile, which is one of the most important breeding races in America. You win the Met Mile, your horse is a sire. That's all there is to it, because the Met, milers are what people want, and the Met Mile is an incredibly important race. And if you could pick a race to win, that's the race. That's the race you want to win. And last year, White Barrio obliterated the Whitney Field, and he will be back to run this year in the Met Mile. And White Barrio is a horse that High Oak ran against as a 2-year-old, but has gone on to really good things. Trained now by Dutro, he's won over $5 million, and he really has exploded since going into the Dutro barn. Then comes the Manhattan on the turf, and then the field of 10 in the Belmont Stakes. And a good field. Seize the Gray, who won the Preakness for Wayne Lucas. Resilience, which is Mott's horse that won the Wood Memorial and ran 6th in the Derby. Mystic Dan, who won the Derby and finished 2nd in the Preakness. Wine Stewart, whose last race he ran 2nd in the Peter Pan. Antiquarian, who won the Peter Pan for Pletcher, and Pletcher's using it as a stepping stone into the Belmont. Last year's winner did that. A lot of horses have done that. Pletcher will have, I think, 3 horses in the race. Dornock for Danny Gargan. Protective, again for Pletcher. That's a Pletcher Rapoli. Anna Marie, which was my Derby horse, who got knocked sideways, knocked upside down, and had no chance in the Derby and ran 8th, I think will run very big. Change of jockeys, I think will run very big in this race. Unless he catches a sloppy check, then I don't know what he will do. I'd have to look and see how I feel about that day based on what the track is doing, whether they make the inside really hard, whether they, what they do with the track, whether they roll it and everything else, depending on whether there's getting a lot of water that day or not. But if they get a regular track, I think Anna Marie is going to run very well. I would also expect the 9-horse Sierra Leone, who ran second in the Derby, to run very well again. And Mindframe is a new shooter for Pletcher Rapoli. So 10 horses in the race, good field. That will be the Belmont. I'll put Belmont predictions up for you on Saturday morning. Once I see what kind of day it is at Saratoga, because I don't know if it's going to be nice, rainy, this, that. I have no idea what Saturday is going to bring. So 14 race card. The Belmont is the 12th. Some great stakes, some really terrific racehorses, and a real show. Hopefully it's not all washed out all weekend. That would be just absolutely terrible. The other day, and I haven't done this in years, the other day, my son Jack and I, we joined, you hear me talk about Leon Slider, who's my horse partner, and who is the guy who runs Casamigos. We went fishing for stripers. We left from Port Chester, and I'll tell you, we had so much fun. We went out there. I haven't done this in years. Went trolling for stripers. We caught 2 stripers, 2 pretty good-sized stripers. We had to throw one back because he was too big. You can only keep him to a certain inch. You got the requirements, and this one was bigger than that. That Lee caught, so you had to throw him back. The first one we kept, that Jack caught him a minute after we started fishing. We started fishing at 8 o'clock in the morning, and 2 minutes later, he caught a gorgeous striper. I did not catch any stripers. I caught 3 bluefish. We caught about 10 blues and about 2 stripers. We had so much fun. It really was great. And I tell you, I just wanted to mention this guy. First time I ever went out on this charter. I haven't been charter fishing in a long time. This is a charter boat that holds 6 people, if you're a family or something. FinsUpFishingCharters.com. And this guy's name is Danny. He's the captain. What a nice guy. We had a ball. Went out in the Sound. Had a great time. We're out there 4 or 5 hours. Really, what a fun day. So I don't know if you ever think of doing something like that, but I tell you, if you do, check out FinsUpFishingCharters.com, because the guy was a wonderful guy. I mean, you couldn't be with a nicer guy. Really told me he loves to have families out there. I was talking to him a lot of the time, puts music on, bouncing around out there on the Sound. And we caught like 11 fish. I mean, it was unbelievable. Now, the blues we don't keep, but we kept one of these stripers, and we had to throw the other striper back that Lee caught because it was too big. But what a lot of fun. Really something different. I hadn't done that in forever. So just a different day, as a matter of fact. So I wanted to give him a little plug because, you know what, the captain, Danny, he owns the boat, could not have been a nicer guy. It really was a lot of fun. So something different, but something I do again. I tell you, we had a ball. We really did. It's just a nice way to spend the day with the kids or something like that, something different for them, especially if you have boys that are of a certain age. I don't know if girls like to fish that much because it's hard. I tell you, they give these fish, they give you a battle. I mean, I'm telling you, they give you a battle on these reels. They really do. It's hard reeling them in. It really is. It's a fight. It's been a long time since I had used the fishing rod. I think it was probably 13 or 14 the last time I did, but it was a lot of fun. It really was. We'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to the Mike Francesa Podcast on the BetRivers Network.